You will fail if you overlook this.
This time, we will explain the pitfalls of bank accounts when foreigners establish a company and how to avoid them. Let's take a look at some common pitfalls that foreigners face when opening a bank account.
I had a hard time opening a personal account.
I failed the corporate account screening.
Even my application for a corporate account was declined.
I applied for several corporate accounts, but all were rejected.
There are many such cases. What should we pay attention to in order to avoid such situations? Broadly speaking, there are two types of bank accounts required when establishing a company. The first is the personal account of the promoters and founding directors. This is required to pay the capital when the company is established. As a special exception, if the promoters and all of the directors at the time of establishment do not have addresses in Japan, it is possible to pay the capital into the savings account of another person. The other is a corporate account for the newly established corporation. This account is necessary for business operations after the company is established. In this video, we will explain how to open these accounts, which can be an obstacle for foreigners when starting a company. First, let's take a look at the personal account used for capital payment. The account for paying in capital must be one of the following accounts: head offices and branches of Japanese banks in Japan, Japanese branches of foreign banks in Japan, Japanese bank branches overseas. Of these, most of the Japanese bank branches mainly provide services to Japanese companies, so either A or B is a valid choice. If you do not have either of these accounts, you will need to use the account of a collaborator living in Japan or open a new account. Let's take a look at the conditions and required documents for foreigners to open a personal account. There are two main conditions. The first is that the period of stay is 6 months or more, and the person is staying for the purpose of work or study. You must also have a valid period of stay remaining. This is because if the period of stay is less than 6 months, the person is considered a non-resident. The other thing is that you have obtained a certificate of residence. Please note that in order to obtain the certificate, you must have been issued a residence card. Next, let's look at the required documents. Please note that this is a general example, but it may vary depending on the bank. Opening a personal account is relatively easy if these conditions and required documents are fully met. Regarding personal accounts, please also note the following. First of all, even if you are living in Japan, you may not be able to open an account if your period of stay is about to expire, so make sure you open an account well before your period of stay expires. Also, be aware that the required documents and whether or not you need to visit the branch may vary depending on the bank. Additionally, please note that all communication with the bank when opening an account must be in Japanese. Finally, after opening an account, you will be required to submit notifications such as renewal of your period of stay, so be sure not to miss these. So far, we have explained about personal accounts when establishing a company. Next, let's take a look at the corporate accounts required after establishing a company. A corporate account is an essential account for receiving and paying business funds, income, expenses, etc. However, the criteria for opening a corporate account are often confidential and unclear, and opening a new account can be difficult even for Japanese people, and even more so for foreigners. Therefore, it is important to first understand the conditions for opening an account and the required documents, so as not to make any mistakes. Now, let's take a look at the conditions and necessary documents for a company established by a foreigner to open a corporate account. As a general rule, there are no special conditions that are specified just because a company is run by a foreigner. However, it is important to keep in mind the following 2 points. First, the representative must be a resident of Japan. It is difficult to open an account if the representative is residing overseas. Another condition is that the representative or person in charge of transactions must be able to communicate basically with bank personnel in Japanese. In this regard, it is advisable to have Japanese people or people who can speak Japanese serve as promoters or directors when establishing a company. Next, let's look at the required documents. This is a general example, but please note that there are differences between banks. For corporate accounts, you will often be asked to submit supporting documents to prove your business operations. Some banks may require additional documents, which may result in the account opening taking longer than expected, so it is important to apply well in advance. The difficulty of opening a corporate account varies depending on the bank. On this page, we have listed financial institutions in order of how easy it is to open a new account. First, the easiest type of bank to set up are internet banks, or so-called net banks. The biggest advantage of an internet bank is that procedures can be easily done online, there is no monthly fee for internet banking, and various fees are low. Although there are disadvantages such as a lack of business loans, they cover all the services necessary for normal business operations and generally handle international remittances, so they are recommended when starting a business. Next are the Shinkin banks. These can be described as a community-based financial institutions. Therefore, you can consider them if there is a branch nearby. Due to their nature, it is easy to open for businesses that are rooted in the community, such as restaurants and retail stores. Next is Japan Post Bank. It has the advantage that foreigners can open personal accounts even if their period of stay is short, and that there are many branches and ATMs, but it is important to note that there is a limit on the amount of deposits. Next is the Japanese branch of a foreign bank. It is easy to consider if you already have a personal account with a bank overseas, but it may be inconvenient if there is no branch nearby. Services in Japan are often limited. Next are regional banks. They often have branches in the prefecture or surrounding areas, so if there is a branch nearby, you can consider them. The screening process is relatively strict. Finally, there are mega banks. They are also called city banks. They have the strictest screening process, and they strongly require proof of business and office existence. However, even among mega banks, the strictness of the screening process seems to vary. In addition, with each financial institution, if you already have a personal account and have a long history of transactions, it tends to work in your favor in the screening process for opening a corporate account. Also, it will be more advantageous for the screening process if your office is located in a more substantial place, such as a corner of an office building. Let's touch on some other points to note regarding corporate accounts. First of all, in order to pass the examination for opening a new corporate account, it is most important to clearly demonstrate the substantive nature of the business with supplementary documents. Also, a corporate account can be opened after registration is complete. If your main business requires licenses and permits, you will also need a license certificate, so you will need to apply for one after you have obtained them. Note that opening a corporate account takes time, unlike a personal account. It is best to allow 3 to 4 weeks, or longer in some cases. As a countermeasure against the difficulty of opening an account, one method is to first open an account with an easy-to-open account such as an internet bank, and then consider opening another bank after building up a transaction record. Note that overseas remittance and other fees vary by bank, so it is a good idea to check before opening. In addition, if you reside overseas, the account into which the capital payment is made can be the account of a collaborator in Japan, including a corporation. However, as explained above, in order to ensure the smooth opening of the corporate account and other procedures, it may be necessary to have the collaborator serve as a promoter or director. Here is a summary. Basically, in order to establish and operate a company, it is necessary to open a personal account and a corporate account. A personal account is required to pay in capital, but you cannot open one unless you are a resident. The screening process for opening a corporate account is strict, so please check the conditions and carefully prepare the documents to be submitted. If you fail the screening once, it will be difficult to apply again. If you live overseas, it is strongly recommended that you prepare a collaborator in Japan for the capital payment, opening a corporate account, etc. Above is an explanation of bank accounts for foreigners. If you are planning to open a bank account, have been turned down, or have any other questions, please contact our office. Thank you for watching. If you are considering establishing a company or applying for a visa, please contact AOBA soken. This video was presented by AOBA soken. For consultations and orders regarding company establishment, visa application and so on, please contact us from the description.